So hello everyone. This is the interview for Kevin Fitzgerald and I'm Donna DeBonis. And we're going to get started with the whole question of what have you been doing for the past 40 years? Isn't that crazy? Did you ever think we'd be saying something like that at all?
Well,
40
well,
years. What?
for 40 years you can't even think about that. I mean, it's too much to even say. I don't. We should have had every 5 years something. So people gonna look at me and go, "Holy cow!" You know, I wish we could have met you when you were still alive. I look old. I'm just gonna tell people, hello, I'm Dean John Venable. And this is my little dog Frank Frucci.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
sure. Like when, yeah, our teachers too. And we do have one or two teachers who are going to be at the reunion, but I'll leave that for later. So what did you do as soon as you graduated? Like the school's in your rearview mirror, you're driving down the road. Were you going straight up to a job? Like what happened that first few months after that school was over?
I started a job right away here in Denver at a small animal practice, a pretty big practice. In those days, it was 5 or 6 people, and I stayed there for 2 years, and then I moved over to another larger practice where I've been for 38 years now. So it's been a good ride. With veterinary medicine is a harsh mistress as a profession,
Oh yeah.
but I mean, it suited me to a T, and I'm still real happy with what I do, and I think it's changed so much. We've seen the
Mhm.
blossoming of specialties, and the corporate nature of veterinary medicine, and uh, COVID and things that have happened. I think that veterinarians becoming more and more important with public health.
Oh,
With
totally. Yeah, public health and COVID. In fact, we had given out for the association that I was president of for a couple of years, American Association of Food Safety Public Health Veterinarians. We gave out the award for Public Health Veterinarian of the Year to every veterinarian in the United States. We just made it a blanket award, posted it to our website, and just said, you know what, folks, you did yeoman duty in getting out there and making sure that people understood about what was happening with COVID because everyone was asking every medical professional they knew, right? What's going on? What is this?
well,
So I bet
that's
you
right.
remember having to answer a lot of questions yourself about COVID, didn't you?
Well, the clients were freaking out. It happened before with AIDS. Remember, the clients
Oh,
freaked
sure.
out. It
Yeah.
freaked out then. So, I think what's happened is, you know, uh, since 2000, we've seen 7 pandemics. And new viruses. We've seen West Nile in 2000, and
True.
and and then we saw SARS 1, and H1N1 and MERS, and then Zika and Ebola, and now COVID. So it's not stopped, and I think that animal-derived viruses, particularly with migratory animals, migratory birds,
Sure. Like with
I
West Nile. Yeah, that was
yeah,
huge. Mhm.
I think in SARS, I think I think we're not done with it, and I think we can't let our guard down, and I think we have to learn some things from COVID, and um, imagine a virus that shut down the world. I mean, how could you even, seeing the clients outside for
Mhm.
as long as we
A
did,
couple of years,
and
yeah. And then thankfully telemedicine became a little bit more to the forefront in
right,
veterinary medicine. Did
right.
you end up doing that in your practice?
Well, we did. We had a site that people could get on, but I think the basic thing is the people's relationship with their doctor, and
Hmm.
so that sadly, it was tough. It was a harsh thing, and I think I think we've not seen the last of those types of things. Maybe not in my lifetime, but
Mhm.
there's other big things coming, and I
Yeah,
think
and I'll tell you,
veterinary
I,
veterinarians are
go
going to
ahead.
be in the forefront of it. Yeah.
I believe veterinary medicine absolutely will, and I believe that we have always been charged to do right by the public. I always have been very thorough when I talk to people about something even as simple as your puppy has roundworms. Let's make sure that everybody is practicing sanitation in the household. And the best part about the situation that we've come out of here in the past 2, 3 years is hopefully that people have learned better sanitation methods. I did notice on the website when I was getting your information transferred onto a reunion page, I had thought that I saw that you had gotten advanced certifications. What else did you end up studying or going back to school for? Anything?
Well, I did the American Board of Veterinary Practitioners, thing canine feline, and
Yeah.
I've been lucky. I've published a lot. I've got 42 chapters in veterinary textbooks, and I've been involved with the Denver Zoo on the board of directors, and then we had a rattlesnake study for the last 20 years here in Colorado, where I was putting radio transmitters surgically into the snakes, and then would follow them and find out how long they lived and how far they ranged, and
What?
so yeah, yeah.
I had no idea. So let's roll back to being published. Okay. What? I didn't know that at all. I missed that part completely. Tell me about being published. What kind of textbooks were you in?
Well, I was on the board at the Rocky Mountain Poison Center here, and so
Oh,
I
okay.
met, I met a wonderful toxicologist one night, at the gym after I'd had a horrible thing with a bunch of puppies who'd been poisoned with strychnine, and
Oh,
and uh, and so I got involved with him, and so in Tolcott and Peterson's toxicology, I've got 5 chapters in the first one and 8 chapters in the second and third, and then I've Doug Mader, my friend, the kind of the dean of reptile veterinarians. I had worked with reptiles before I got into school, and
hmm.
so I've got a bunch of chapters in his books.
Okay,
And
okay. That's
then
so
also and then
mhm.
some emergency medicine stuff with snakes with uh, Lisa. Oh, she was at Wheat Ridge. Mazzaferro. She has the emergency medicine books. So I've got snakes, bees, spiders, and ants, creepy things that bite our pets. In those, I've got a couple of chapters in those. So I think to try and keep interested and
Mhm.
keep throwing some punches. Yeah, it's been good for me.
Oh, absolutely. I didn't realize that you were involved with being on the board of directors with the Denver Zoo. When did that start?
I started working over there with Dr. Taylor, my boss. We became friendly with the head veterinarian there, and so I helped with some surgeries, and then I've been on the board since 2009.
Okay, wow, that is
And
really cool. I didn't realize that you were so involved
well,
with
the zoo
exotic
the zoo
medicine.
it's got a great thing. They've been very much involved in conservation,
Hmm.
and so the zoo bought. Excuse me, I got this cold. In 1994, they bought 187,000 acres in Mongolia and gave it back to the Mongolians as their first national park. And then we managed the endangered species there. So I've been to Mongolia 12 times for them, and we have
Hmm.
I have veterinary students and wildlife biology students, and we've gotten 18 veterinary degrees and PhDs, and they go back and teach at Mongolian institutions. So it's a wonderful place, and the animals are great. We've got people studying wolves there, and the Argali sheep, bighorn sheep, 100 pounds bigger than ours. We've got there's ibex goats there, and the Cinereus vulture, second largest flying birds, only to the condor. And so, I mean, working with the students there, I've gone over a couple of times a year since
Hmm.
2010. So it's been great. And then also some other things. The Denver Zoo had some things for donors where we'd take people up to Churchill to the polar bears, and so we just kind of guide some of those things, and then been on some guided things. I went to Namibia with a group of veterinarians to look at some cheetah research and some wild dog research in October. So, I mean, I think there's 10 million other forms of life on the planet besides us. And, we were given this wonderful biodiversity and our intellect, and all the other animals are waiting for us to use our intellect and save the place,
Oh yeah. Hmm. So it sounds like you're really involved, particularly now, that's your passion with wildlife conservation.
Well, yes, I think, it would kill me if, I never had children, but if my little nieces, if their kids could only see a polar bear in a book.
Sure. Yeah. So who's your little friend there?
This is Mrs. Thompson.
Mrs.
And Mrs. Thompson, she's a little orphan. She was tied to a fence in a snowstorm. We take care of the Roaring Denver police dogs, and the cops brought her. She'd been frozen, been out there a couple of days, and the guy drove by one day and saw her, then drove by the next day, and then so
Oh
she's
my
my
gosh, look at her.
she's my vice president. She's
Uh-huh.
she's a lot of company, and she's a Democrat.
That's, I'm with you on that, Kevin. I'm with you. Yeah. So yeah, our little baby dogs. That's what I call mine, my little baby dogs. And yes, I admit I got a couple more this year. And when the others pass on, they leave a hole in your heart. They remain so much a part of our lives going forward. But still, you do want to have others involved. I've talked to people who've lost pets and they don't want to have them again. I think that. That's just really shutting down a crucial part of your life.
Oh, you can't. I mean, she needed me. I I get a kick out of her. But I'll tell you, I'm so excited to see our classmates. I mean, these are people that we sweated and bled with for 4 years, and
Right.
I still have dreams that I've forgotten a test or something, or that I can hear Kaner's voice or something,
Totally.
and
Yeah.
I still have dreams about it. It was a wonderful time, and a really transformative experience, and harsh. Veterinary school was tough, and but I think well worth it for the career that I've been able to have. I've been very lucky.
Yeah, I think that's what pretty much everyone has said, that no matter what you ended up doing with your veterinary knowledge, it still stood you in good stead every step of the way for the past several years. I remember feeling a lot like veterinary medicine had let me down during the financial crises that came up in the 90s in Southern California, and then up into, of course, 2008. That affected everyone everywhere. and I was just, gosh, I was so disappointed. I kept thinking, you know what? I'm having such a hard time being able to make ends meet. And then, but then it turned out that, you know what? My veterinary medical degree was worth a lot to the Army, and they were chasing me down. So that's how I ended up in the Army. But yeah, it kind of surprises you about all the things you can do with your veterinary degree. And I think the fact that you were able to parlay that into stuff that had to do with toxicology, and then going to Mongolia, how many times? A dozen times? Did you stay in yurts? I just want to know.
Well, then the Russians call them yurta. The Mongolians call them gers.
Years.
So
Hmm.
so it's a nomadic. It's still 45% of the people are nomadic pastoralists, and they're wonderful. They sing all the time, and it's a horse culture. It's a harsh place, but they're wonderful people and really friendly, and yeah, it's been great. And then it's just a wonderful time. The American Veterinary Medical Association did a telephone survey in 1957, and 43% of Americans said that they asked them, "Do you think your pet's part of the family?" 43% of Americans said the pet's part of the family. They did the same thing 2007, 50 years later, and 97% of Americans. So we've seen during our time a big shift. People expect so much more from us, and we can do so much more with the birth of, the specialists, and we have a CAT scan and a MR at our place, and ultrasound. And, we used to say, we think your dog has a brain tumor. Now we say your dog has a 1 centimeter lesion, in the prefrontal. So
You guys have an MRI? Really? You do? That is
yeah.
amazing. I did end up getting to refer a dog to get an MRI. They did go through with it, and it was only 6 years old, and it did have a brain tumor. I think that it is incredible that we can offer this nowadays to pets, don't you?
We can offer so much more. It's it's a it's a funny profession with charges. For me, it's I don't know. We've seen, I don't know. The corporate thing has changed things. I try and be positive about it, and try and see it. One thing that happened for me that was interesting was, we had a show on Animal Planet for 11 seasons from our hospital, and that was and I realized that, I wasn't a TV star. I was a poor but honest veterinarian, and just show what we could offer, and I think people were surprised what we could do, but it's a good profession. I think people, they distrust lawyers, and they're getting harder on doctors, but people still like us, and we somehow have to maintain that goodwill about our profession. When I go places, people hug me, and I've taken care of their dog for 40 years, and so I think that part of that was that veterinarians are willing to become part of the fabric of the communities. I go to, I'm the judge for science fairs, and
Well, that's so awesome. I was a
you know,
judge for science fair one time, and I loved it so much.
well, the little kids don't write their own spiels. The parents write the stuff. This little girl came around in front of her exhibit entitled "The Atom," and she goes, "The atom's very small. It can't be seen by the naked observer." So I knew what you meant, but it's a great image,
That's
the
awesome.
naked observer.
So let's roll back one sec. I got to be honest. I think everybody that I've talked to and said that you're going to be coming in on to do, for the reunion. Of course, you'll be there cocktail night, the first meetup, and then the next night you're going to help with the hosting of our banquet, and you're going to basically be doing that, and where everyone's excited. So everybody always mentions about the Animal Planet show that you did. How long was that? How long was that on the air?
11 years.
Yeah, and also I kind of feel like that was the first time veterinarians were being followed around in real time. And isn't your show
We
kind of like the first time that was out there?
Yeah, we were one of the first reality TV things. I remember we did we were showing our pilot to the network executives, and the crocodile hunter was showing his pilot, and his pilot was fascinating. It was him and his wife in the darkest marsh of Australia, and they were snagging crocodiles right out of the marsh and throwing them in at midnight. And he pushed his wife out of the back of the boat into the water, and he goes, "Crocs are attracted to vibrations, flap your arms here, flap your arms," and so I thought, boy, using your wife as a decoy, this is going to be a huge hit. So it was a different day. It was kind of innocent. We didn't get paid for it or anything. Um, we decided that we just didn't want other veterinarians to think we're actors or paid people, and so they gave us a site fee, but we didn't get paid, and so it was an interesting thing. It was, I don't know, I couldn't watch the show. You can't watch yourself on TV, because I'd go, "That's not my neck, that's my dad's neck."
Oh my God. I guess,
It's,
yeah, I think that's true. I had that problem when I listened to my recordings and on my podcast. But I wonder, when you were doing that, in a way, I feel what you're saying is that you were giving back to veterinary medicine to help promote that veterinarians are trying so hard to do the right thing by their clients as well as by the pets.
Sure. I mean, we got two responsibilities. We certainly owe something to the animal, but we can't let the people down. They're paying the freight. And so it was an interesting thing. The other thing I've been doing stand up for 35 years, you
I
know,
think I think we know about that part, Kevin. Go
and
ahead.
so I've we I've gotten to open for George Lopez, and a lot. George takes me, and I went with Joan Rivers. She liked me, and so hopefully I'll do some stand up at our thing. I've written some jokes, and so I do probably, I don't know, probably 200 nights a year.
Oh my gosh, that much. I had no idea that you were doing that much. And yes, everyone is expecting you to do something funny.
You can't write funny things that happen. And
Yeah.
veterinary medicine lends itself so well. I've got a book coming out about, you know, it's part of it's veterinary medicine, part of it's growing up Irish Catholic in Denver, and then
Mhm.
part of it is bouncing for bands that I did, before I went to vet school, and
Yes.
and then veterinary medicine, and then comedy, and then the last part is conservation. I've been to the North Pole, up to the polar bears 7 times, and then to Antarctica 3 times, to do conservation work, and photo. The North American Veterinary Society has great trips for, taking pictures, and I've met some great veterinarians that are wonderful photographers. I'm not a great photographer, but I mean, to be a little boy from Denver and get to see a penguin, or
Oh, yeah.
to see a polar bear up close. It's
Oh my gosh, I feel like that about photography too. And there's so many awesome pictures that you could take of animals around you. Did I'm kind of wondering, have you been a keynote speaker for like a veterinary convention yet?
I do a lot of speaking, and do a lot of CE too, so I've done a lot, and so I've got great videos, maybe we'll show one at the dinner,
That would be
of
great. In fact, we're trying to figure out how to get some audiovisual stuff going. We
I've got projectors.
ah,
So if you just give me a wall, and it's all I need, and
oh,
I
cool.
can do some of the things. But no, I mean, I think uh, for me, it's been a wonderful profession, and it's not done yet. I'm 71, but you're not going to live forever. But I just, it makes me sad about how many people we've lost, from our class. But
Well, I
I
guess
just,
in other ways we have to be grateful. I mean, it's not necessarily a whole lot, but it still is very sad. You're right.
yeah,
The about your book, what's the title? Do you have it titled yet?
yeah. It started with a turtle.
Oh, okay.
So it started off with a turtle ad, and then that was it. So that kind of set me into motion. But it's just, it's a lot of stories, and if you live, gosh, sorry, if you live long enough, you have stories, and
Gosh,
and
yes.
and so I think as veterinarians, we've had interesting lives. I mean, the stuff that happens, I mean, is not, you're not going to an office and just, you know,
Right.
I mean, the things that you could be doing, and so getting to see live animals every day, it's a different thing,
That's what
You
makes
can't,
it so much fun, really,
you,
because we're
you
not doing the same exact thing every day.
right, and there's so many things that veterinarians can do with young people. I feel sad for young people now with a tremendous cost of veterinary school, and the debt that they come out of school with,
Oh, it's
and
terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. I don't even know how it's possible for them to get out of debt. It's beyond. I mean, I talk to veterinarians now that they're still buried and they've been out of school for 10 years and they see no end in sight. So it is troubling. Something has to be done to turn that around.
no,
Absolutely.
it has to, I was lucky. I was bouncing for bands, and so for every tour I did for the Rolling Stones, they paid for a year of school, So,
Oh, I didn't know that. What a great
so,
trade-off. That worked out really well.
so,
So the big
so,
question is, you still keep in touch with them? Or are they calling you for any pet questions they have, Kevin? Because I get those phone calls from people. I, I pretty much like, oh, my sister-in-law's dog is having a problem. Really?
Yeah,
I think
Keith
that'll
used
help
to
you in general. Yeah.
Keith used to have dogs and would call me about it. But yeah,
Yeah.
so
See.
but
Mhm.
but I mean, I think people like to be seen in the kindly light of being an animal lover. Even famous people. You see people with their animals, and so I'm so excited to see our classmates. I think that's the main thing for me. It's gonna be a magic 2 nights.
Oh yeah, I'm completely positive it will be. In some ways, I really hate to travel at this point, only because I had to go to Army Reserve drill duty once a month, and my unit was in Texas. This last time, my unit was in Texas. So getting off of Whidbey Island in Washington State involves a 3-hour shuttle ride. Then you have to be 2 hours ahead because it's SeaTac, and SeaTac requires that you can't even begin to check in until 2 hours ahead. 2 hours ahead, because my gosh, you're going to go through security. God knows what that's going to look like at SeaTac. So yeah, that it's so miserable. But yeah, I thought, okay, yeah, I'll do this for this event. Yeah, this is going to be great. And then I had the moment where I looked at the cost of the plane tickets and I went, ah, darn it. So I waited for a bit and the cost came down, and then I was like, oh yeah, it's golden. So yeah, definitely going to be out. I'm going to be flying in on the day of the first meetup, and uh, and then just hang out with people at the hotel the next day. Our tour doesn't start till 5 the next day, something like 4 or 5. I know it's very late in the day, so that gives us the opportunity to kind of hang out and visit, that day and of the 31st, and just take the opportunity to walk around a little bit downtown Fort Collins. Have you been up there, anytime recently?
Yeah, I've done comedy up there, continually, and it was a little tiny place when we were there. It's not anymore. You
Hmm.
know, it Loveland was a different city. There was country between, and now,
Now they're
it's
all matched up. Yeah, they're like falling into each other. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
I was up in 2017, and I was doing some training with the USDA Food Safety Inspection Service. They send you everywhere around for 6, 7 months training. And so I thought, oh geez, I'm going to be over there. And I had seen Dr. Cleon Kimberling at one of the AVMA conferences. So I popped him a note, said, hey, I'm going to be up. And he says, oh yeah, come on over, we'll meet up over, in Fort Collins. So we walked around a little bit, had a meal, and yeah, I had a really awesome visit with him. He was still quite spry in his 90s. So I think, in general, veterinarians tend to be, just practicing or living or what have you for a really long time. I think we are basically a healthy bunch of people. I feel like getting through vet school required that you be abnormally healthy, don't you?
Well, that's right. That's right. I think we didn't have enough time to do things, so we had to really uh, be our time was precious, so we had to work out, or we only had so much time for each thing, and yeah, it was man, it was intense. When I think back to vet
So
school,
intense.
I, but mainly not mixed emotions, but it's funny. The longer it's gone on, that I only remember the happy parts. you know.
Oh, yeah, well, that's the way it's supposed to be, if possible. But yeah, I remember people talking about going on ski trips on the weekends. And so I'd be looking at them like, seriously? I have to study. And then what do you mean you're going to be go? And then if you look at the party pictures, I'm not in very many of the party pictures because I'm studying. School was hard for me, but I did get to go to that Savma trip down in Louisiana for Mardi Gras. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was, I did
yeah.
get to, I
I
felt like
remember people talking
yeah.
about that. That was great. So yeah, no, it's gonna be a special couple days, to be able to see people. When I've gone back to the school, you know, all our professors are, you know, there's not many there that you know
Mhm.
remember me. You know, they look like babies. You know, the people that are young. So I just yeah, but everybody's young now. It seems like to
Oh,
me.
yeah, sure seems like it. So what do you see on the horizon? You said you have your book that's going to be coming out. Do you know when that's going to publish or what?
No, I'm messing around with the publisher now, so we'll see what happens with it. But it should.
Hmm.
I hope by the end of the summer it's out. You know, so that'll be good. And then what other things? Oh, some more trips. You know, you know, photography trips for. I went up in September. Excuse me. Before I went to Namibia, I went to Alaska and we followed the salmon up the river and filmed the bears coming down and eating them. You know, and
Oh,
so
yeah,
it
that's
was
crazy.
yeah, it was spectacular. Yeah. So
Hmm.
it was so that there's all these uh kind of ecotourism things, you know, that you can do and see. I think there's so much we could be doing as far as, you know, saving these places and you know, I've been trying with my book. One of the ideas I had was when I was with the cheetahs in Namibia, you know, the cheetahs, there's only 4,000 cheetahs left in Africa, and so it, their pattern is so well thought of and used for the fashion world. And so many patterns of animals, feathers and different things are used. Even if they don't use them, just use the pattern of a leopard or whatever. And we use animals for mascots. We use them in advertising campaigns. We use them, you know, as logos. And so I thought the idea of a species royalty, like if you use an animal for an advertising campaign, you're duty bound to give back a certain percentage of your profits to the
Truly.
protection of that animal. So imagine Coca-Cola with polar bears, you know, and how
Mhm.
much money they make. And if they gave a half of 1% to the protection of habitat, or you know, imagine they could make a difference. And so,
You
I
know,
think
that
it's
that concept. I believe it's something that some companies are doing on their websites now. But what they're doing is it's more about ecological things versus actual animals. And I think you bring up something that would be huge for every single company that utilizes, as you said, the animal in its advertising. Put that on your website that you're giving that much back. I mean,
yeah, it's
climate
great. It's
change
great.
and
Yeah, it's great
ecology are
PR.
important. Do
It's
that, but
great
by the
PR
same
for them.
token, look at what it would be, like you said, for the polar bear. Uh, and so yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that would be fantastic. I hope people hear this this YouTube interview and realize what a great idea that is. So when you're doing these trips and everything, how does that impact your schedule for work for your clinical job?
Well, I've been there so long that you know, I get, you know, there's never been anybody that's worked, you know, 38 or 40 years at the hospital, you know.
Sure.
So they got this thing like, well, if you work for, you know, 4 years, you get 2 weeks, and if you work for, you know, 10 years, you get, you know, 4 weeks, and if you work, so I think I've got 8 weeks a year, you know.
All right, so sure, that's not it. That's not a concern. Do you see yourself at some point leaving clinical practice and perhaps going on these trips more often, or maybe being a spokesman for animal conservation, like doing TED Talks, things like that?
Well, I'm not interesting enough to do a TED talk, you know, I don't think, but I think uh you know, just getting the word out there. I don't think I'm going to retire. You know, right
Mhm.
now I'm kind of like a I'm kind of like a retired fire horse with an honorary stall, you
Oh,
know.
sure. Okay,
So
so
I
going
just
into the practice
I
every
just kind
day.
of go into work
Yeah,
and they, you know, everybody's so young and so
yeah.
they're deferential. But I'm kind of the ghost of Christmas past. But you know, I still
Or the goat, GOAT.
I see a lot of people every day, and you know, I still am in there, you know, 4.5 days.
That's not a bad schedule at all. I had a schedule one time that was 4 days. a week, and I loved it. I found it was the perfect schedule. It really was. I just thought that that was the timing that you would need for being able to, you know, sit back and relax, having a good day that you'd have relax and kind of just kick back. And then there'd be the other days when you would kept get caught up on whatever you needed to do and personally. So yeah, 4 days is 4.5 days. That's kind of perfect. And having all that time off, and clearly you're busy in the evenings with your shows. Oh my gosh. And you stay pretty local for that, or do you go off into certain, other areas of the country for
Well,
your
it,
show?
it depends. It depends. I've got a manager who keeps me busy, and he books the stuff for me, and I do a lot of uh human medicine groups or veterinary medicine groups. I do, but I do a lot of places. If you work clean, you can work a lot. You
Hmm.
know,
Sure. Yeah.
and
Yeah. Like
so
your show is
in, in,
is PG rated, or it's not an issue, is what you're
yeah,
saying.
I'm not prudish, but I mean, if you work clean, you can work a lot more. You
Hmm.
know, so.
Sure. Yeah. And you're talking about really cool stuff, animals, which we all love. So that's a big key, I'm sure. And so going forward, you kind of think stuff's going to be just kind of the way you're living is a good way of living. You have that time where you get to hang out at work with people that really respect you and care about you. And I venture to guess that is kind of a comfort to go in there and have your time and your space how you want to spend it there. So I think that's something that we all look forward to, if we can have a job that's like that. That's kind of like the best of everything, right?
What what do they say? They say, if you love what you do, you've never worked a day in your life, and so
Yeah.
it's been a labor of love. Like I said, it's a harsh mistress. I wish my hair was still black, but
Uh, yeah,
it
yeah,
it take it takes a toll on you, but
it
but it's a
does. We
it,
get
it
we get
it's
so
a good toll.
invested.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it is. But that's what makes us caring people, and that's the reason why a lot of people talk to us about their personal problems. I've had people come in and spend time just hanging out in the office with me. That's when I was working clinical stuff, and I had my own place time that I could spend doing that. And I think that was meaningful. That was part of it's kind of like in the old days when doctors were human doctors, did house calls, and they were part of the family. I kind of feel like veterinarians fill that niche now. And again, like you said, animals are mean so much more to people nowadays. And personally, I know that I'm always going to be involved with veterinary medicine, and I think a lot of our classmates feel the same way, and they've been grateful. So yeah. Well, do you have anything else you want to tell us about before we kind of roll to a close here? And
No, it's been fun. I didn't help you very much. I don't think. I don't
oh
think it was
gosh,
very.
no, I think
I
we
don't. I
were
don't
we
think.
had a,
I don't,
I want to tell you, we were a lot longer than some of the other interviews already, and I knew that was going to happen because you know what? There's so much to talk about over 40 years. It's incredible, and I'm really gratified that I'm finding people are still very happy with their choice of having gone to vet school. Don't you think?
Oh, undoubtedly,
100%. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know anybody that regrets it. I mean, money wise, could we have done something and made a lot more money? You bet. But that wasn't why we did it anyway.
No, no, we
And
wanted to be able to love what we did, so we didn't work a day in our lives. That really is the key, and that's the best way to put it. I love that. So I will be seeing you in, let me see, I think Tom wrote in our last letter that I sent out last night for him, 46 or 7 days, something like
yeah,
that.
just a little more than a month. Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be it. And then we're going to hang out for a couple of days, so that's going to be pretty awesome. I
Well,
think that,
thank you again for all the hard work you've done putting this together, because that
oh
that was
gosh,
just that was
not
tough, boy.
you know, just coming up with, you know, the folks that started and came up with the idea, you know, Lisa, as usual, she's very committed to trying to get everyone together. And Tom and Mike already had a vision. And then I just put the place together for where all the information would hang out on the internet. But I got to tell you, you know, Mike has done yeoman duty when it comes to finding the places, because we have to have a place where, you know, like it's the first night, we don't want to be just sitting someplace random. We have our dedicated space. We can hang out and really interact just with each other and have our privacy. And then the next night, the you know, same thing for our banquet, and figuring out the menus. That's been insane. You know, you have to take so much into consideration. So yeah, he
I
really
can't
did.
imagine. I can't
Yeah, he really
imagine.
did. And then
You know,
Tom, oh, you would be stunned. He made like this workbook of everybody's information. He's been the king of information on everyone. He could probably have a second career as a detective. He's got everything, you know, recorded about where people are and their addresses and phone numbers. We are still missing about 3 or 4 people we're trying to find. So that went out yesterday, and in terms of you know, trying to get in touch with them and let them know about this. And then yeah, and then Lisa, she kind of keeps the party going. You know how Lisa is. So I hope you had the opportunity to take a look at the pictures that are posted as well. Folks have been throwing in, you know, the pictures from our time at vet school, and that's been kind of exciting to search for ourselves in those pictures. But yeah, we're going to meet up and hang around, and I think it's going to be pretty awesome. So I
yeah.
will see you in a little over a month.
All right. Thank you so much for all you do. Thank
You're
you.
very welcome. I think that we're going to be very excited and happy about what this reunion is going to look like. Thanks
Uh,
again.
All right. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you very much. Thank you.